to her mother's greenhouse. Max was to arrive that very day for Mamma's annual garden party, to herald in the Easter holiday. She wanted to surprise him with fresh flowers in his bedchamber, and alongside the flowers she intended to leave the sketch of him she had laboured over since his last visit. Smiling widely to herself, she tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear as she made her way to the greenhouse. Her fingers roamed over the rest of her hair, pinned atop her head. The heavy mass swept up off her shoulders was a new sensation. She had been waiting for this day forever, 6 years, ever since she first met Max. Mamma had agreed she was old enough to leave the plaits behind and wear her hair as a lady did. Aurelia could not wait to see the Viscount, to show him that she had grown up since his last visit. Mamma even agreed that she could attend the garden party this afternoon, a victory of epic proportions. She might not be permitted to attend balls and soirees yet, but this afternoon would be hers, her moment to shine. The first time to see Camden in a year, and the first step in him seeing her as a woman. She squared her shoulders, wondering if he would notice that she had grown nearly 3 inches in the last year. And that wasn't the only thing that had grown. She glanced down at her bosom on display in her prim bodice. In the last year she had developed, gaining breasts that felt as cumbersome as melons strapped to her chest. And that was not all she had gained. She had grown curves, too. A surfeit of curves. Her hips, her derriere, all were embarrassingly present. She tried not to resent these changes. She had an older brother and cousin. She was not blind to the fact that men preferred such things in a female. Finally, she was no longer a little girl, and she hoped Camden would notice. He'd always been kindly attentive, but she hoped today would be different. Today she hoped he would see her as more than a child, more than a friend, more than Will's little sister. She was, after all, a woman of 15. Once in the greenhouse, she crouched before her mother's roses, carefully snipping the stalks and nestling them gently inside her basket, careful with the delicate yellow petals and mindful not to prick herself on the thorns. The sound of soft laughter startled her. She had been so lost in her musings, cocooned in the silence of the greenhouse and her happy thoughts of seeing Max again. She had assumed herself alone amid the flowers and lush greenery. She rose to her feet and moved deeper into the greenhouse, clasping her basket of flowers close as she followed the sound of voices farther back. The sun wasn't high enough to reach there yet. She could peer only into shadows. At first she thought it was a groom making free with one of the household maids. But then she identified the fine cut of dark blue fabric stretching over a man's back. It wasn't Merton livery. She recognized the maid's dove-grey skirts, however. All the household maids wore the same uniform. Clearly this was an assignation between a maid and a gentleman, not in her father's employ. Perhaps one of the guests had arrived early. Leaning closer, she recognized the female's wild coppery curls as belonging to Ingrid, one of the kitchen maids. Usually her hair was pinned up and tucked under her cap, but it drew the eye regardless. Aurelia had envied it, wishing for it over her own dark brown hair. Ingrid was propped up on a potting table, her legs dangling over the edge of the table, skirts hiked to expose her shapely stocking-clad legs. Heat flooded Aurelia's face. It was a scandalous scene, made even more shocking when she realized the man's trousers were down past his hips. She couldn't see his backside. The fall of his jacket covered him, but from his movements between the maid's splayed thighs, she had a fairly good notion what activity these two were about. Mamma had not yet explained the nature of male-female relations, but Aurelia had indulged herself in the numerous medical texts in the library. Mamma had no concept as to the content of such books, but they proved illuminating for Aurelia. Face burning, she turned to leave, feeling uncomfortable spying on the intimate scene. But then the maid's breathy sigh stopped her.